Our scripture today comes from Isaiah the 40th chapter, beginning with verse 27. And I'm reading it from the Message. Why would you ever complain, O Jacob, or whine, Israel, saying, God has lost track of me. God doesn't care what happens to me. Don't you know anything? Haven't you been listening? God doesn't come and go. God lasts. God's the creator of all you can see or imagine, and God doesn't get tired out. Doesn't pause to catch God's breath, and God knows everything inside and out. God energizes those who get tired and refreshes those who drop, and gives fresh strength to those who drop out. For even young people tire and drop out. Young folks in their prime stumble and fall. But those who wait upon God get fresh strength. They spread their wings and they soar like eagles. They run and they don't get tired. And they walk and they don't lag behind. May God bless the reading of this word. I don't know if y'all are country music fans or not. I'm guessing probably not. But I am. And so this song, back in 77 when it came out, this was one of her crossover songs, right? And the story goes that she wrote this song, The Light of a Clear Blue Morning, as her song of deliverance. She was coming out of a breakup with her longtime musical and business partner, Porter Wagner. And she had been on the Porter Wagner show. She had traveled with Porter Wagner when we talked about the song Coat of Many Colors and how she wrote it down on a dry cleaner's tag from his nudie suits, from his flashy sequin suits on the tour bus. So like they were close in their business and in their music together. And in 1974, she wanted to take her career in a different way. She wanted to go more toward pop music, to have more than just a country music base. And Wagner was not happy with that. Porter got very upset about it. As a matter of fact, Porter sued her for that. And so for the next couple of years, they were caught up in lawsuits as he was suing her and taking legal action against this. And it was a painful time for both of them. That is widely reported among country music fans. And according to her unauthorized biography, it says that it was written because she felt that figuratively the clouds were lifting as the fruits of her sacrifice of the previous years were becoming apparent. And that's when she recorded The Light of a Clear Blue Morning. This was her story, basically. Just as a side note, she recorded this song 3 different times. It's on 3 different of her albums. So obviously it meant a lot to her, this time in her life when it changes. And I think that perhaps all of us can relate to a night that is so long that we wondered if the sun was ever going to come up again. A time when we thought that the darkness of our soul was never quite going to go away, that we weren't going to be able to get out of whatever it was that was weighing on us, whatever it was that was heavy on our souls and in our lives at that point in time. And I think that maybe, just maybe, all of us in this room are kind of feeling that for our society today. Like, how are we going to get out of this? How are we going to get out and things are going to be better? How is all of this gonna how are we gonna get back to the light? And I think that Dolly Parton's song, The Light of a Clear Blue Morning, speaks to those kind of days and those kind of nights. The lyrics aren't sugar-coated. She's singing as someone who's been through it. She's known the betrayal, the heartbreak, the loss, the burnout. But then, if you listen to the song, there's also this hard-earned joy. This joy that reminds us that it's been a long, hard fight, but I see a new day dawning. And that, my friends, is resurrection language. In Isaiah, it said, for even young people tire and drop out. Young folk in their prime stumble and fall, but those who wait upon God get fresh strength. They spread their wings and they soar like eagles. Yesterday, Jen and I went to the aquarium because Quite frankly, we were going to go kayaking, but it was hot. Like, we loaded up the kayaks, we got them all in the Jeep, we were all like tied down and ready to go. And then both of us looked at each other and went, it's 100 degrees out there. What the heck are we thinking? Let's go do something in air conditioning. And so we went out to breakfast and we went to the aquarium and we walked around, and there's an eagle there. His name is Maverick. And Maverick has just moved to a new habitat outside. But we're standing there looking at him and we're like, there's no cover on this. Like, he's just free to the outside. Why doesn't he just fly away? And so, like all people, of course, we went over and finally read the sign. Like, tell us what's really going on here, right? And poor Maverick was hit by a car in Michigan. It's one of those M states. One of those M states to the north. I don't know. They all kind of run together. He broke a wing, and they could repair his wing, but they couldn't repair his wing enough that he could fly. And so he basically has this unflyable wing. And so he lives at the aquarium. And you could see that his wing was just a little off kilter. And I think, what would it be like to be an eagle where you can't spread your wings and fly? That you're stuck sitting here on this perch where people come to see you. And many of you know that a few months ago, we spent hours watching the eagles at Big Bear in California. They have a webcam, a trail cam on them, right? And this pair of eagles, Shadow and Jackie, last year, they laid 2 eggs, and we watched, waiting as they cared for those eggs and sat on those eggs and waited for them to hatch, and they never did. And it was just like the whole society of people who were watching, thousands of people every day watching to see the eggs hatch, and we were all just heartbroken that their eggs didn't hatch last year. And so this year, when they laid 3 eggs, we were all just like, whoo, new eggs, new hope, new, it's coming, right? And then the first one hatched. And you could almost feel the ripple across the country. The first one hatched, and then the second one, and then it didn't seem like the third one was going to hatch. And it was like, oh no, the third one isn't going to hatch. And then finally the third one hatched. And then how are they going to feed these 3 babies? That's a lot to feed, right? And it's still snowing out there, and it's still, like, this is treacherous. And then, well, the first baby it died. And for a while, that dead baby just kind of laid in the nest until there was this almost ritualistic thing where Jackie, the mom, came and took the baby and left with it to get it out of the nest. And it was just like, oh, that was heartbreaking to watch her come and take this dead baby out of the nest. And then we watched the other 2 grow. And it seemed like one was really strong and one wasn't really strong. And are they going to make it? Are they not going to make it? Are they going to fly? Are they going to fledge? And then it was like, oh, they're going to fledge any minute. And when's it going to take off? When's it going to take off? And then the first one, I lost her name. Gizmo is the last one. Anyway, they let the little school children name them. So anyway, so the first one, she's like, Sunny. Sunny is like hopping on the limb, like hopping. And we like enjoyed watching her hop, and learned to like stand up and flap her wings. And then she was kind of out. They call it the front porch, but it's really just a limb. And so she's out there and she hopped up and she flapped her wings. And then when she went to land, she didn't land. And so when she didn't land, she just spread those wings and flapped them. And she was flying. And she didn't fly far, but she flew around. And then she went out of the camera range, and then a little bit you saw her come back and land in a tree over there. And like we just all just like, you could hear the cheer across the country. Sunny fledged. She was flying. And then it's like, when is Gizmo going to fly? Now it's your turn, Gizmo. And Sunny would come back to the nest. And the parents would still come and feed them in the nest. And Sunny would come back, and you'd see Gizmo like trying to emulate sister, right? And then it was a Saturday morning. And we were getting ready to go somewhere. And all of a sudden, Jen comes running in. The nest is empty. Because Gizmo had fledged. And we had to go back. Like we were like trying to go back in the video to see the moment that Gizmo fledged. Because we were so invested in these eagles. And they hung around for a while. Eventually they took off for parts unknown to set up their own households, right? Because that's what eagles do. Soaring like eagles. What does it mean for us to soar like eagles? When we soar like eagles, it's not like we're pretending everything is fine. It's not like we're saying that we're not exhausted, or that our grief isn't real, or that we have seasons when we're in the wilderness. It means that we're daring to believe that the light is coming. The light is still out there and it's coming. We're just waiting for that moment when it breaks through the clouds. When it breaks through and we see that light again. Whatever that means in our lives. You see, Isaiah wasn't writing to people who had an easy time. He was writing to people who were living in exile. Their country had been overthrown. They were taken off to another country to be slaves. And that's who he's writing to. These are people who had lost everything. They had lost their homes, their temples, their dreams. They were in a far-off land. They were not where they wanted to be. They were worn down and they were wondering, has God forgotten us? And what does Isaiah say? What does the prophet say to them? God doesn't come and go. God lasts. In other words, God hasn't abandoned you. And God hasn't abandoned us. God doesn't get tired. God isn't done. And I would submit to you that God isn't done with us. And God isn't done with the world in which we live. There's something sacred about the first hint of morning light. I'm not a morning person. I don't like mornings. I like to get up slow. I like to sip my coffee. I like to have the quiet house. Hence the fact I'll be happy for Jen to go back to school. Like, I like when everything is just quiet in the morning and I get to not get up too early. And yet, it's sea turtle season. And so because it's sea turtle season, I will get my little self up out of bed and be out walking on the beach at sunrise to look for turtle nests. And it's some of the greatest joy that there is to be on the beach and watch that sun come up over the horizon. You know, the sky goes through many changes as that's happening. The sun is still below the horizon, and yet all of the light out there changes. The clouds kind of start to get a glow. The ground around you, everything lightens up. And then, on some mornings, you'll see just this little dot start to peek up over the horizon. And I'm always amazed at how quickly it comes up once it starts. You know, it seems like forever you're waiting for it to break the plane of the horizon, and then once it starts, it's like, whew, it's just up in a hurry. I'm like, how did that happen so fast that it got so high in the sky? You know? I'm sure that there's some scientific explanation for that, and we're not going to ask Jen what that is. But the sun rises this slow, gentle, sure way. And often that's how God brings healing to us. In this slow, gentle, sure kind of way. It's not something that happens all at once. It's not like, boop, you're healed. It's like healing comes slow. Moment by moment, breath by breath. And so while we might feel like we're in the middle of a long night right now, maybe life feels like it's just one fight right after the other. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're tired of pretending like you're okay. But let me tell you something. You don't have to fake it with God. God sees you. God holds your weariness. And God promises that this is not how your story ends. God is in the business of clear blue mornings. That is the promise of resurrection. And that's resurrection not for just some distant afterlife, but for the right now, for the today, for whatever ashes you're standing in. The light of God is coming. You don't have to see the whole sunrise yet. You just need enough light to take the next step. So keep walking, friends. Keep trusting. Keep going. Keep speaking. Even if your voice is trembling, then I invite you to sing like Dolly, because morning is breaking. And because we can see the light of a clear blue morning when everything's going to be all right and everything's going to be okay. Amen.